As a young girl, just the other day, my parents would take me to my grandma's house, and I adored my grandma. More than anybody on the earth, I loved my grandma. And we would bake together. She would start by putting on her apron, because as I've been told, you can't be a real grandma without an apron. So I've been told. So with her apron on, she would take her recipe for bread. And my grandma made the best bread. Now she had many children, 13 or 14 children. But when my grandma baked bread, she didn't just bake bread for her family. She baked bread for all of her neighbors. And she lived in a coal mining town, so there was a block of people, and she would bake enough for all of the neighbors too. That's how special my grandma was. So she would take the recipe, and the recipe said sugar. So we added sugar. And it said salt, so we would add salt. And it would say Crisco. Do you know what Crisco is? Do they still make Crisco? Today, we would use olive oil. Yes. Yes. And then the recipe called for yeast. And this is the old-fashioned yeast that you have to dissolve and everything. So in the yeast would go. And there we were. And then the final ingredient in this was some water. Mix that all up. And then it called for flour. Flour. Now all of these ingredients were very specific to the quantity. But when it came to the flour, she said, well, just add flour. And I would always ask, well, Gram, how much flour do you need? Well, you'll know when you have enough flour. I said, well, how will I know when I have enough flour? So we would start adding little bits of flour at a time, small amounts, and mix it up. Well, that certainly wasn't enough, so we'd add more. And we'd keep adding flour and more flour and mixing it up, and pretty soon we'd start to mix it with our hands because it started to get form dough. And we'd mix it with our hands and we would knead it. And we always knew just when we had enough flour. Our fingers would tell us because the dough would no longer stick to our fingers. It would stay in the ball. And this is what the dough would look like. Beautiful, isn't it? We would let it rise and get to be big and firm. And then she would take a small amount of dough and roll it around and make a roll. And then she would take a loaf pan and make a loaf. So she would have loaves of bread and rolls of bread. You know what else is like this? Just like this? It's how God makes us. God puts in some kindness. God puts in some caring. What else does God put into us? Go ahead. Life. Yes, God puts in some life. And what else does God put into us? Compassion. Yes, and mixes it all up. and keeps mixing. What else does God put into us? Go ahead. Forgiveness. Oh my goodness, yes. We can't forget about forgiveness. Anything else that God puts in? What else does God put in? You don't. Go ahead. What else? Caring. Yes, God pours in more caring. Anything else that God puts in? Bravery. Courage. Yes, courage. More, and yes, and stirs us up a little bit after each ingredient. What else does God put in? Go ahead. Oh, you saved it. You got it. God pours in some love and mixes it up. Well, just how much love does God put in there? Just like my grandmother used to say, as much as you need. God puts in enough love so that you can remember the kindness, the courage, the compassion, the forgiveness, and trust, to trust God. He just puts enough love in there to make this perfect dough. And then here we are. Now, you see, none of them look exactly the same. None of them are exactly the same size or the same shape. But do they all have the trust, the love, just enough love, all the love we need? Don't all of these have all of those ingredients in there? Nothing is left out. So if this bowl is God with all of those qualities that we just talked about, all mixed up with enough love to hold it all together and keep it all together, but we all look different. We all show up differently. But look, every one of these small balls, every loaf has all of those same qualities. Just like all of them have all the same qualities, the ingredients that my grandma used. So every single one of us, has all of those qualities of God. The kindness, the compassion, the trust, the courage, the forgiveness, and the love. How much love? All we need. That's right, all the love we need. But boy, we look differently, don't we? And we show up differently. So the way you show compassion is going to be different than the way you show compassion. The way you show kindness is different than the way you show kindness. The way you show up and are brave is different than the way you show up and are brave. And the way you forgive is different than the way you forgive. So we all show these qualities just a little bit differently. But guess what? We need everybody to show up the way they're supposed to. I certainly can't be Peter. I certainly can't be Miss Kathy, because we are all very different. And the world needs, and when I say the world, I mean our families, our school, and our entire world needs us to show up just the way we are, with the love and kindness, compassion, and forgiveness. How much love? All the love we need. Yes. And we show up very different than each other. But not one is more important. Not one is less. Because somebody needs forgiveness the way you show forgiveness. Somebody needs kindness the way you show kindness. Because we all show those qualities differently. And somebody needs love just the way you show love. In fact, I bet there's someone right now who's waiting for love the way you show it, the way you express it. Somebody needs the kindness that you show in just the way you show it right now. So when we remember that all of this that God is, all of those qualities that we called out as being God are in us, innately in us. We can't exist without them. We exist because of them, because God pours life into us too. So when we forget who we are, we deprive the world of all that we are. When we forget who we are, we're not showing the kindness, the compassion. We're not sharing the love. How much love? All the love we need. We're not showing that love. And where do we start showing love? Right here with ourselves, right? How did you show love to yourself today? I see your hair is perfectly in place. The braids are perfect. So you showed love to yourself today, right? Yes. So we got up and we put on the clothes of our choice. We showed love to ourselves today. We came together in church to be with one another. We showed love to ourselves today. And afterwards, we're going to eat a lot and we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to continue showing love to ourselves. So that's where the love starts. And when we show love to ourselves, then we can show it to each other, right? I can't show love to my brother or sister if I'm being mean to me. I can't show kindness to the kids down the street or the woman down the street or the man across the bridge if I'm not being kind to myself. I can't show compassion to anyone else unless I'm showing compassion for myself. And you who so brilliantly said forgiveness, how can we forgive anyone else if we don't forgive ourselves first? So we're going to mess up. You know, we always say that we're spiritual beings and we live in our human form. And because we're in our human form, we make mistakes. We go astray. We say things that maybe aren't the kindest or the most proper things to say, and we can forgive ourselves quite easily. Yes, so we have all of that within us. So what do you have inside you? What do you have as who you are? Call those things out again. Kindness, forgiveness, love. How much love? All the love we need, yes. And courage and compassion. All of that is us, always, always. So we can follow my grandma's recipe and put everything in and put the flour in as love, all the flour we need and all the love we need. So remember that when you go out today, that you are all the qualities that God is. All of them, every single one of them. And you show up in a way that nobody else does. So when we show up remembering our divinity, remembering the God as us, then we're living, truly living who we're here to be and what we're here to do. Namaste.